Let the dragon consume you! Enemy sighted. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! 3, 2, 1.
The Birdwatcher's back at it one more time. Here's your host, Ryan and Clay. They're about to bring you some sweet, sweet Overwatch action.
Yeah, so it turns out, Ryan, we still do talk about the Overwatch League. I know it's been a little while with all the contenders and the break, obviously, but man, it's a good week to come back to it, man.
Yeah, we had our anniversary episode, right?
Yeah, we did.
And now it's episode 39, and we are this is our first official Atlanta Reign focused guest.
Yeah.
It's exciting stuff.
I'm excited because obviously the players I really like to watch, DeFran, Gator, Dogman now, which I kind of want to hit on just a little bit because we're like, oh, he's off the academy team. What's going on? This is one of my favorite guys to watch, and then a couple hours later we find out he's in the big times.
Classic debate, man. So much has happened since our last episode. We're under a lot of pressure here because we had the watch parties. I think we'll start off with that.
I'm under no pressure because I live so far away. But yes, Ryan is under a lot of pressure. So put it on him.
We're gonna get you here. The thing is, so we plan. We're part of the Royal Family. The Royal Family essentially helps plan a watch party event. So we had our first watch party event for the first Atlanta Reign game, their debut. And it was a raging success. We were at Battle Brew. We expected 50, and then it got to the point where it was like, okay, maybe 150 people will show up. 600 plus people.
That's insane.
600 people showed up. The doors opened at 5, and when the doors were when they're waiting to open, 2 hours before they opened, we had 100 people outside.
Did you expect that number? That just 100 people right at the beginning?
No. We didn't expect that many people lining up to wait just to open. And when we opened, within an hour and a half, we were at capacity, which is 450. And then throughout the night, they did a one in, one out type situation. And then they let more people in when the actual Atlanta Reign game started. But it was just it was a madhouse. But the great part about it, everybody behaved themselves. Everybody was well-mannered. We heard plenty of feedback. There's so much to talk about as far as people said they had a great time. They didn't think it would be this big. They didn't even know that other people watched Overwatch in Atlanta, things like that. And this was just the first one. So we got 28 games.
That is crazy. Yeah, just looking at the pictures that were sent to me, it looked crazy. Just the line in general, you're like, oh my God, dude, this is nuts. It was awesome to get to see all these people that have a common interest in a common team. Man, it's awesome.
Dude, it was crazy. And, it was just that the recognition, people knew about our podcast. People came in, first of all, shout out to David. If you're listening to this episode, man, it was a pleasure to meet you. Just people coming up and be like, hey, wait, you're one of the guys on the Birdwatchers, right? They're like, yeah, that's a good pod. People were just saying, oh, that's a real good podcast. It was nothing but praise. And it was I wish you could have made it to this one naturally, but we're going to have many more. So that being said, that was what we now call a Grandmaster level event, right? So we have these now tiered, okay? Because not everyone can be that big. It's not feasible. We got to plan these things out. So we actually had a gold level event, which is our lowest event, which is more of a simple casual feel, right? And it's basically, hey, we're going to be up there. The royal family's going to be up there, and you can come swing by and just hang out with us. And that was even a success today. And it was impromptu. I think we talked about it this morning was when we started telling people. The games were started at 4:30, and we had about 20-something plus people come out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So outside of that, the next level will be the diamond level. So you have gold, diamond, and then grandmaster. And diamond level is going to be probably half the size of the grandmaster events. So we're shooting for 200, 300 people. We got this all set up. I'm going to link. We now have a meetup page that will get you guys the information to. I'll have, if you look on our Twitter, any of our medias, it'll be there. I'll post it in the show notes as well. Definitely follow that because that's how you'll be in the loop for all the events. and you won't miss a beat. But yeah, that's, thanks all of you, all of our listeners who came out. Thank the fans, everybody who showed up to make this thing work, because we proved to Atlanta, and trust me, a lot of venues are blowing us up now that they want us to have our events there. So
that's amazing.
This was a very important thing, and it's all of us kind of working to make that happen. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm done talking about that.
So
let's talk about
week,
season 2 started.
Season 2, first week we're in it. Man, and it seemed like to go, without a hitch. Man, it seemed really polished. Had some pauses here and there, but all the games that I got to watch, just checking in and out, man, they looked really good. All the commentating was really sharp.
Yes.
I think Uber had a really sweet shirt on at one point.
Dude, today I messaged. Listen, Uber, if you listen to this, you probably don't. I added you, man. I need to know where to get that shirt.
Yeah, right. You're gonna wear the shirt he wore, right?
Yes, yeah, of course. Have you seen it? That blue shirt, dude.
Yeah, it's dope. I'm just saying.
I
don't know if
I don't care.
He can pull it off, but. But yeah, week 1.
Yeah.
We started off on Thursday. We're not going to talk. We're talking Philly and London in our a match topic this week, along with the Atlanta games. So we're going to kick it off in New York and Boston. New York taking it 2-1.
Standings for this week, yeah.
Yeah, standings for the first week of season 2. So New York versus Boston. New York taking it 2-1. Seoul versus the Glads. Dynasty taking it 3-1. Shanghai 1-3. Hangzhou.
Or Hangzhou. A lot of people say Hangzhou. Yeah. Let's go with Hangzhou.
Yeah, so the Spark take it 3-1. On Friday, Toronto Defiant. This was a good game. I get to watch a little bit of this when I was, working on Friday. This was a really good match. I want to go back and watch this one again.
It was interesting.
Yeah, taking it to 5, but the Defiant getting it 3-2 over the Outlaws. Gonna skip the Atlanta game. We'll get to that, of course. Dallas Fuel, San Francisco Shock. Shock take it 4-0. Chengdu Hunters and Guangzhou Charge.
You're killing it, man. You're doing it. No,
is that
Guangzou? Just go Guangzou.
I keep second guessing.
We're not going to get it right. Sure just a shout out to the podcast, the Hot Pot. Yeah. So they have native speakers. That are they speak English, whatever, but they go through all the names that we are butchering. And listen, we're trying our best. I listen to them pronounce it, and there's no way in hell.
My concern is I'll say it different every single time, so I'll never be able to get it right.
And that's why we call Brigitte, or what is it?
Oh, Brogan, yeah.
Brogan, man. It's just easier.
Yeah, but the Hunters take it over the Charge 3-2. Saturday, London Spitfire kick it off again, but losing to Paris Eternal 3-1. Didn't see that one coming.
Paris looked sharp.
Man, and we are so dumb. I'm so dumb, at least.
Well, we went off of Worlds, right? So it's basically the same team. We went off the information we had. So if we had no information, we probably would have made a different decision. I don't know.
That's right. I hope so.
Yeah.
Washington Justice, New York Excelsior, second game of Saturday. Excelsior taking it 3-1.
I'm still not convinced that Washington Justice is a team or if they know they're a team.
Yeah, just a pickup game every time.
It's weird. It's like they grabbed a bunch of people off the street. It's like, hey, you guys got to play this team real quick.
Yeah.
The advertisement.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, the whole package, the late advertisement, the late kind of interaction. They've been silent on Twitter. It's just, it feels like they don't exist.
Yeah, that watch party is one guy, just one guy hanging out
with the shield.
Yeah. Valiant's first. Yeah. Valiant's first game of the year. Lose 2-3 against the Spark.
Dude, Spark looked good.
We're gonna have to check a game next week or two. Definitely want to watch these guys.
Have you seen that?
Action.
Have you seen the crowd completely pink?
Really?
Yes. The second game, it's like they took over damn near half the stadium.
Huh. I was reluctant to get a skin on my account, but man, it looks good. It looks good. I got a Genji one.
Yeah, it looks good, especially with the pink graphics they use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Soft pinks like cotton candy.
Yeah. Vancouver Titans 4 over the Dragons. Houston Outlaws try again, but lose 2-3 against the Boston Uprising. Philly, Atlanta we'll get to at the end of the match. That'll be our main focus. San Francisco Shock, Los Angeles Gladiators taking it 3-2. So winning one, losing one, both of them this week. We don't know about Seoul Dynasty and the Dallas Fuel. It is currently live.
Yeah.
So maybe by the end of the episode.
Yeah, we might run into that throughout this season of the cast as well because of how the new schedules are.
Yeah.
And how our record schedule is to try to get you guys this as fast as possible, so you can enjoy it. So, we're sorry we can't give you that, but we'll definitely, what we'll do is we'll take that game, and then the next week we'll update you on that score as well.
Yeah, and like I said, if it does finish before we're done with this, we'll throw it in there.
Yeah, exactly. We'll throw it in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Yes, so let's, we're going to hop into it. We don't want to waste any time. It's the first week back. Everybody's been clamoring and waiting for this to happen. So let's do this. Spitfire versus Fusion is our first game tonight. So we start off on Ilios. We start off with Control in this season, which is something we've seen in Contenders, which was a change. And it's a good change of pace because, Contenders can kind of go either way, and it kind of gives you a gauge of where the team's at, allows them to get their nerves out, and it's not 2 CP, which is, godsend. So we start with Lighthouse here. And the first thing I noticed was there was this huge play by Poco. So this kind of goes back and forth for a bit. Although Fusion cap initially, Spitfire is able to flip and control the point for the remainder of the round. Kind of shows off, that dominance they ended the season with. But there is something cool that happens, and I want to know if you notice this as well. There's a point where Gesture has a play where he jumps and then pops his primal to get his second jump. And in his second jump, it's like Poco's watching him, and he boosts into him to knock him slightly off path and fly off the map.
I did not notice that, but
Dude,
that is a huge play.
It was a huge play. And then Spitfire,
if you mistime that even slightly,
Yep.
he'll reset his jump again.
Yep, exactly.
Be able to get back up. Man,
dude,
that's...
Poco's been on point throughout this week as far as his plays.
Oh, absolutely.
But Spitfire are able to follow up after that to win the fight, and they flip it back, and they take Lighthouse. And then we move to Ruins. I don't even know. It's Ruins, right? I'm being ridiculous. I hope so. But Fusion here kind of flip it around. They capped initially, again, but this time they hold it throughout, and they take this round actually 100-0. So that's a good kind of flex on that one. This takes us to our third round on Wells, where Philly keeps the momentum from the previous round, and they take it all the way through, and they get the first map. So this is one of those cases where that Lighthouse performance was kind of shoddy, but there was some good things. But they got the kinks out, and they took it here.
Yeah, I will say that I do like watching Birdering on the Zarya. We didn't get to see it a lot in Season 1. He's very aggressive with it. He does get a lot of picks. He plays it like a DPS character, which, could have some downfall if you're not protecting your Rhine, but he stays high charge for most of the first map. But the second map, he still plays very aggressive, but he's low charge almost the entire time. I don't know if because he's not playing with his Rhine quite as tight and getting those high charge bubbles in there. But yeah, he was playing real aggressive. It was really cool to see just him laying all that damage down, especially map 1.
Nice. So this takes us to Hollywood, and Fusion looks good here again. So on attack, we have Fusion dealing with some heavy Spitfire resistance the whole match, and they're held on point 3, so they don't get it completely. And then we move to Spitfire and attack, and they start just as strong, but Fusion steps up in the last minute to hold them, and they end up taking Hollywood 2-2, or taking Hollywood and making it a 2-0 actually, which this is shocking, right? Because we talked about mainly, hey, this is the revenge match, but to see them actually getting revenge and starting out very strong. Spitfire looks a little confused. They're doing some subs here as well. It kind of caught us off guard, or caught me off guard.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I said this the first time I watched audio play, is he is so fluid on Winston that, man, when he is aggressive, it almost puts London at like a backstep. They're not sure what to do against him because, some time off. We were used to dive. Now we're seeing a little bit more of the 3-3, but he's still playing very aggressive, like that dive tank. And London just can't figure out how to get around him.
Exactly. Sato's in prime form here. And this continues throughout the week. So we move to King's Row, and we get to see this new quad DPS thing that's been going around, especially in the Chinese teams, the Chinese scene. We get to see Widow, Pharah, Tracer, Sombra, Mercy, and Wrecking Ball, aka Hammond. And it's impressive. It works.
Did you say King's Row? Oh, I think it's Volskaya.
Sorry, Volskaya. Yeah, my apologies. It's Volskaya. And thanks for looking out, man. You're always there for me.
But I love King's Row.
Yeah.
Ryan,
that's so you're like, no, there's no way.
I would have enjoyed this hour-long match.
This was a brawl.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I put it as my map of the match just because it gives viewers and a lot of new fans that hate goats and that was complaining. It's like, here you go. you get to see something that's the complete opposite of the spectrum, and it works.
Oh, it's dope, dude.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. But, this essentially, both teams make it through to the second round. But Spitfire end up finishing with time still remaining, and they get one more attempt. And with their non-GOATS comp, they get the tick that they need, and they make the series 2-1. So this keeps them in it because they completely threw off the fans, the casters, and Fusion here.
Yeah, getting to see Birdring back on the Widow, get to see Probably back on the Tracer, man.
All those dinks.
Those dudes, I can tell they want to be playing DPS. Obviously, they want to be playing, the GOATS comp as well, if that's what is needed for that map. But to get to see those guys, get back to the DPS character as well. Really cool to see.
Exactly. And this we resolved on Rialto, which I don't know. We didn't have Rialto in the previous season. So this is like one of the first times we're getting to see it on the stage. And Spitfire, man, this looks bad. This is kind of like what you would see in the first map, right? But they get spawn camped here at the very beginning, not too far from the corner, and they're just struggling the whole way, and they never really make it. They get stalled out. They get essentially full held on this fourth map, which is very important for them because they need to push it to a 2-2. And then Fusion come out and they score the little bit they need, get the little bit of distance, and they end up taking it 3-1. So they get their revenge. They came back and they did what they needed to do to prove to the world, hey, we wanted to win.
Yeah.
And this year might be their year because they are still a dangerous bunch and they haven't changed much.
Absolutely. Just looking at Twitter this week after watching some of the Philly games, a lot of people are excited about this Philly team. Obviously very good in Season 1, but these teams out here, they need to keep an eye on these guys. They're very good.
Very good. Yeah, we're gonna get to it. we'll get to the battle of the communication companies. But our next map we're gonna actually get into, our next match, is the Atlanta Reign versus Mayhem. So this is our first time covering it. Hopefully we do it justice. But we start off on Ilios.
Washington Justice.
Oh my gosh, let's not.
Are we talking about Atlanta or what? I'm really confused now.
Don't confuse the listeners. Come on. You're supposed to be the one guiding them through the light. But no, yeah, so we start on Ilios, so once again, a control map. And Defran on stage for the first time. This is one of those moments that you'll see in all of the promo material from this point forward. And you'll weep when you look back. But it was very...
so happy.
It was very emotional.
So happy up there.
It was very emotional for everybody. At the watch party, It was... You can go find videos online. It was insane. We did a countdown and everything. And he did the tour. He did it. And you know what's funny? I don't want to get too sidetracked. But that same comp we used during the community day situation.
Yeah.
And they said that all those they're like, they're basically playing Mystery Heroes. It's like, no, we played the comp. Yeah, people were on different characters, but we showed it.
Yeah. I mean, Molten Core is so good against armor, and people just, I think they think it's a meme, but no, man, it's unreal how good it is.
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. It just melts.
And if you can aim with Torb, he has one of the most difficult aiming situations as far as the arc, the speed, and then the drop as well. It's crazy, but it does a lot of damage. So if you're good and you figure it out, hey, power to you. But yeah, absolutely. We have Defran come out on Torb, and it works here. The comp completely throws off Mayhem, and they come out the gate strong. And the part that stood out was they're surprisingly coordinated, and this was the number one thing that everybody was concerned about. They were like, okay, well, you have 5 different nationalities or more on the team. How are they going to work together, right?
Sure.
And they do just fine.
Yeah, it definitely shows that they put a communication standard forward in their practice, and I'm sure it's not some elaborate thing, but as the commentators pointed out, it's something similar to what you would see on a football field. Some short-term phrases.
Yeah, like Dallas, or Nashville.
Yep.
Yeah, so we take Wells, and then we move to Lighthouse. And on Lighthouse, we get the initial cap, and we do the same thing where we hold all the way through. And Florida does never really contest here because Erster goes on Farah, and they never tried to answer it. And outside of that, they never really initiated full team fight. Granted, we don't let them because there's a lot of people getting picked off in the process.
Right.
So this leads us to taking Ilios without much resistance, and everybody's going wild because Atlanta looks like they've been here already.
Yeah. I will say Florida does one thing really well, and that is group up. But past that, it doesn't seem like they understand like how to to really engage. They do this really good job at, with the 3-3. That's what they play the most of the time. They do this. They group up. They get ready. They speed boost in, and then past that, it's like, who are we focusing? What are we doing? It's like goats on ladder. It's like you have to have a designated target you're looking at, and Florida just never does it. And then BQB. A minute and a half for one EMP. The Fran's on a second one by the time he's popping one. And it was beautiful because most people would think, hey, DeFran solo EMPs is Hammond, but he kills the Hammond, and it sets Florida so far behind because they have to completely reset. This is a game where, right now in this meta, that it is hard to move in 5v6. So just those little plays, and we see it from DeFran all weekend. He makes these great solo grabs, solo EMPs that really, he's a playmaker.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, he's definitely prodigy level. All the talk you've heard, anytime any interviewer asks, hey, what do you think about DeFran? Nobody bullshits. It's straightforward. We know it's like, if he can get his personal stuff together, that man is going to do some crazy things in the league, and he's doing it, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, he looks at the game a lot different than most people do, because a lot of people, like I said, they would see that as a mistake. He missed people, but he intentionally does what he wants to do. These EMPs on the Hammond, it was beautiful to see.
Exactly. So we move into Hollywood, and this is kind of by the books here. On attack, Florida, once again, is struggling throughout, and that's due to Atlanta's aggressive defensive style. So we know that Brad, a.k.a. Seffi, is their head coach of Selfless. Selfless kind of showed up with that, aggressive defense before anybody was really doing it much. And it's a style that's been adopted. You've seen a lot, especially from the Atlanta Academy. I mean, hint, hint. There's a reason they do that, right?
Absolutely.
They're related. So this causes a lot of problems for Florida Mayhem. And then they get stopped kind of short at point 2. This moves to attack for Atlanta. And Atlanta just plays it by the book. It's pretty straightforward. And they're able to take it 2-0 or make it 2-0. Yeah.
2-1, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, this was
No, this is 2-0. This is the second map in a row. Yeah.
Oh, second map. I thought you meant on Hollywood.
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to confuse you. My bad, man.
Yeah, the only thing that really stuck out to me was Florida did the waiting game with the MP and the barrage. That was a really good setup. It took a little while to get online, but that looked like a little bit of coordination that I didn't see from Florida on Ilio. So, I mean, there is some light at the end of the tunnel for Florida. They just need to work on some stuff.
Exactly.
They do overlap alts a lot. I was just noticing the fact that Florida would throw grab and slam at the same time.
Yep.
It was like the tanks weren't talking to each other. So,
which is an interesting situation because a lot of people have talked about, they switched their whole comp team-wise where all the players are Korean now.
Yeah.
So the only person is Tavix. So why are the lines getting crossed when that's exactly what you were trying to avoid, right?
Right. And this is another point where on attack, Atlanta or DeFran solo grabs somebody, but it's a solo grab that gets somebody away from the team. They pick them. And like I said, 5v6 is difficult nowadays.
Oh, yeah, man. So we move into Volskaya, and this is going to be our map of the match. We're still doing it. See, sometimes we forget, but I think most of the time we remember, right?
I've never forgot.
I never forget. We're somewhere above 70 percentile.
Yeah.
Volskaya's our map of the match, and because of that, I'm not going to go too in depth on it because you have to watch this match. This is a very important match to show you what Atlanta Reign is bringing to the table. So we talked about how the communication is already solid, but this is just another step forward. This is a long one, and there's great performances back and forth. But Atlanta's able to squeeze out the win, and it's mainly on the back of DeFran stepping up in those playmaker moments, those hero moments, because this is the first time Florida Mayhem's really giving them a pushback, and Massa. So Massa is their Lucio. In case you don't know, he's their Lucio, and he's their shot caller. But as Clay mentioned, they now have a system in which they call plays. So it's a little more fluid, and it allows him to focus on tracking alts, which is essentially Moss's specialty. Brad has talked about how he thinks he's like godsend when it comes to tracking alts for everybody, including the other team. And if you watch his positioning and the time they move and shift, it's perfect throughout this whole match, even though it goes long, right? That's just Florida Mayhem playing better. But it's like every time the EMPs go off, he's nowhere in sight. And then he comes back, drops the beat. He always has it. Like he's on point, and it helps that team in general because it allows the French to do what he does well, which is play Zarya really well. Yeah. That tracking is insane. One way to think about it is, you talked about his solo grabs. is I think they mentioned, like, if you're a Zenyatta player, right, and you have somebody who's at 50% health, and it takes you 7 orbs to kill them, while it takes another guy 2 orbs to finish him off, well, that's 5 more orbs he can use elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Right? That to equal the same efficiency that you're putting out. So that works for Defran. If he can get 2 grabs by the time you get 1, if he burns a grab, technically he's still as efficient as you are.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that happens on so many occasions where the enemy Zarya, and not just this game, the enemy Zarya is looking for this, not playmaking grab, just this big grab. I mean, what people,
You're talking about the Swan play?
Grab. What's that?
You're talking about the Swan play when he charges into the grab that shouldn't have been shot?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's actual play that happens.
Oh.
I'll talk about it. As you were, sorry. I didn't mean to use you off.
Yeah, well, he's using 2 grabs to their 1. They might be getting grabbed the same speed that he is, but he's using his, getting another one, halfway through the second fight, and he's able to do that on multiple occasions, and a second grab just wins the fight. Even if the first one is on one person, takes somebody out, he's getting another one, it doesn't matter.
Exactly, limbs are important. So there is a situation where, and I'm blanking on the name of their Zarya player, but they end up doing the grab just to get multiple people, but the play isn't set up yet. Like the set piece isn't there, and Swan dives in anyways to try to make it happen, and it breaks the whole thing apart. And nice. Atlanta's able to break through that fight. So Swan here is kind of an important situation because he's been talked about as far as coming in to fill in the spot for like awesome guy, and he's not kind of stepping up to the plate or being as effective as I thought he would be. He's had a lot of questionable plays as the main tank. And we'll see if that moves forward, but it was something here that definitely gave Atlanta the advantage.
Absolutely.
So we move into Route 66. So that's 3-0, by the way. I know that was kind of not ceremonious. I'm saying that wrong. It was not, exciting, but we 3-0, and we essentially win our first match here as, the Atlanta Reign. And now we go into map 4, to kind of shore it up. And if we win this map, it actually puts us in the number 1 spot for the first set of matches.
Yeah.
So there is one point where somebody took screenshots and they're like, "Hey, I know it's super early, but we're number 1, baby," and everybody was laughing. But Route 66, Florida Mayhem can't really catch a break. It's not that they're fighting poorly. These fights are actually really long, but it's because of Atlanta's aggressive defense style here. And like when we talked about Atlanta Academy in our older episodes, it creates a situation because if you fight them at their door and you fight them for 30 seconds, right, you're still running back a further distance, but the cart hasn't moved yet. So that next fight is going to be just as excruciating. So you're getting these little bits and moves like of the cart after these big excruciating fights that take a lot out of the team, right? And yeah, so because of that, they're not able to get too far through streets. And when Atlanta goes, they don't really have the same amount of issues they have. And they're able to kind of cruise through and cap, and they get a 4-0 sweep to start off their season. And it felt good. It was loud. People were drunk. It was exciting stuff.
Did anybody buy you any beers, Ryan?
Oh, of course.
Oh,
dude,
man.
Yeah, I drank for free.
Oh,
we're the bird watchers. Like, come on, man.
That's fair. That is fair.
So and that's how it works, is because they'll buy my beers, and then I have to buy your beers because I always owe you beer.
Well, you're not really saving money then, I guess.
Exactly, right? It's that whole efficiency problem we just talked about.
Yeah. Dope.
All right, so Reign has their first win on their hands, and now we move into the game that everybody's been talking about. So that first game naturally is against Florida Mayhem. Florida Mayhem was towards the bottom. I think they were second from last in the last season, so it was kind of just a test to see how we would adapt to being on the Overwatch League stage. But now it's the true test, which people were calling the Battle of the Communication Companies. So we're facing Fusion, second place last year. Arguably, people said they should have won. They well outperformed what people thought. This is another team that is heavily mixed nationality-wise, and overcame that to essentially face a Korean team in the finals, which was beyond. I mean, when they beat NYXL to go play Spitfire, that was something that everybody it definitely outperformed, right?
Absolutely.
So this is definitely the test here, and we'll see if we pass that test. So we start with Nepal. We're still in control. And we start on Shrine, and Fusion comes out the gate swinging. Man, they are like they're team wiping us essentially for the first couple fights. and they end up getting to 99%. And then Atlanta somehow doesn't give up. They flip it, and they go on an absolute rampage and do the same thing that Fusion did to us in the first half of this Shrine round, and we ended up taking the first round from them. Hell of a start.
Yeah, Philly really just throwing their weight around, right? I mean, they're a team that's established, and we know, I mean, most people know they're a really good team, so I think they went in there trying to use that to their advantage, right? Yeah. Atlanta's a new team. Maybe they can catch them off guard by just pressuring them heavily, and it didn't work out in their favor, right?
Did not. And then we move into Sanctum, and it's great to be known as the team because people are still complaining about GOATs somehow. To the point, I mean, I think GOATs right now, statistically, we're seeing like a 40% or somewhere close to that. But the other 60% is so diverse that it's never really been that diverse. So like even when we had a heavy dive comp situation, we didn't have that many other compositions to go against it. So we're in a good place. We're still getting GOATs, but we're in a good place to start off, right? Especially with this other patch the Paris patch coming down the line. So
absolutely.
That being said, though, on Sanctum, I mentioned it because we come out with double sniper, and the crowd's going crazy because we haven't seen double sniper in forever. And we're doing double sniper against a team that has one of the most dangerous double sniping comps as possible because they have Carpe and EQO, who are both known for their Hanzos and Widows respectively, but they don't see it. So we actually start off strong here and catch them off guard. They decide to go back and mirror our comp, but it struggles until about 99%. And then they do exactly what we did to them on the previous Shrine round here on Sanctum. And Carpe becomes a dangerous man. I mean, he's always a dangerous man. Him and EQO are both dangerous, but he shows you who the real Widow is and gives us a lot of problems because he goes mostly uncontested, mainly because at this point, we're trying to keep control of the map, but also not poke our heads out because we can't go contest him because if you give them the resources, then they just move in on you, right? And the comps have kind of shifted a bit from this point, and this leads to Fusion actually taking the second round.
Yeah, this is it's a crazy one because I think everybody forgot how good res can be.
Oh yeah,
Neptuno gets 4 reses on this one. Just being down a man, bringing him back, man, it really does turn some fight around. Even when Atlanta had a 2-man advantage, this is I think they're at 99-99. You know, Atlanta kills 2 guys real early. Neptuno sneaks a res in, and it really does impact it really big. You know, they bring back Boombox, and it's insane. He gets a trance. I mean, it changes the fight.
I'm happy you brought Neptuno's name up because he looks like he leveled up. Neptuno's always been solid, but his play so far this first week has been very impressive.
Absolutely.
So don't sleep on that. Definitely watch him when you're watching these games. But we move into Village now, so we're going in the third round. Hell of a way to start. And it's interesting because it's kind of a stalemate moving on to the point, but for some reason, Fusion just give it to Atlanta. And that puts them behind because in the end result, we end up taking it by a little bit to win this one, to take this map. And if they didn't do that, I think if you fight that fight, at least, you know, if you lost it, okay, cool. You kind of lost it in the fight. You didn't immediately give up point. But that little bit of percentage that gave us the head start after this back and forth flipping ended up playing in our favor.
Yeah, absolutely. It at one point, it looked like a typical, we had the point. It was about 84%. It looked like a typical when goats collide together, everybody kind of slams Q at the same time. And Poco just happened to just land this really nice 3K. I mean, just with a combination of not having a shield at that point, it landed, just couldn't get away. But yeah, they turn it back around. It just seems like Philly did not know what to do. They were just held at that gate.
Yeah. So this takes us to Kings Row as our second map here. And we start with Atlanta on attack, and we struggle. We struggle on point 1 for a while, and this kind of leads to this tight time window we have to move cart through the street. During the final fight near point 2, Fusion has one of the best, I'm going to call it set piece. So for you all that aren't familiar with like your traditional sports, in soccer, a set piece is essentially when one of the teams is given time to set up an opportunity to get a goal, right? So they have a play essentially that they get to call. And that's kind of what it felt like here. So at the point where we're on point 2, this is the layout. So Carpe catches the whole team in a grab, right? And this is the final fight, by the way. Carpe catches the whole team in a grab, Neptuno then goes behind the team and starts strafing back and forth on Lucio to prepare to boop the team once Poco throws his bomb. So he prepares to boop, then Poco tosses his bomb, but then right before it exploded, Sato actually charges Poco. So it's a misdirect. And they end up getting the 3K they need to win that fight and to stop us right before that point 2, which is very important because Kings Row streets, if you don't cap it, it's a very hard thing to defend against on your opportunity. Did this stand out to you, this play?
Yeah, that especially, but the fact that in streets, at the very beginning, Atlanta wins this fight just easily without any ultimates, without hitting any ultimates besides, I think, a Defran grab, which was really good. Use nothing else. They force a lot of ults out of Philly, and then we meet them a second time where we have 4 or 5 ults. We hit a bunch of them. We don't win the fight, and Philly didn't have to use any either. So it was a little odd to see the fact that we invested a lot of ults and didn't win, when before we crushed them with only 1. I don't know. It's a weird spot to be in because we had really good target focus, but there was a little bit of I don't know if it was miscommunications or just the fact that Philly was able to split our tanks a few times in the streets.
Yeah, exactly. And this takes us to Philly on attack here, and it's fairly clean attempt. They win all the fights they need to keep the cap short, or to cap the short point of point 2, and they take the map, and they tie it up 1-1. And this is kind of foreshadowing. This is an important match. And I want you guys to keep this in mind. But yeah, this is kind of a quick one for Fusion. So we move to Volskaya, and this is going to be our map 1 of the match. So you remember, listen, this game is real good. This whole match is good. But Clay, you remember when we've done maps of the match? We're bringing that back, right?
Perfect.
Okay, so Volskaya is the first one, and this one kind of goes back and forth. This leads to a third round, with both teams only having about, I think, a minute to attempt point 1, and on attack, ATL's able to get that 1 tick on point 1, which is very important, mainly because Fusion, it was kind of hectic all around, kind of a high stress scenario in anybody's book, but they kind of slip and let them get that tick to make it a little more difficult. So then when Fusion try to follow up with their attack, they actually go with the Widow, Pharah, Hanzo, Hammond, Diva, Mercy comp, and this is concerning because we have such little time, we're committing to the comp that we're using. So usually there's a high percentage in this meta, a team is going to pick goats, so they're playing against that. And you can't, it's too much of a gamble to try something different, hoping that they do that, right?
Correct.
And then we get the king of shot calling, Masa here, who has a hell of a performance. So essentially he scales, we have this issue where we can't contest the Widow because of the comp, so he scales up, using Lucio, kills Widow. Neptuno ends up rezzing Widow, but as he's rezzing Widow, he then goes get EQ on Pharah, kills Pharah, and puts us back in it. So they essentially lose both those distracting pieces, so they can't stretch the field, and we end up taking it and going up 2-1. This Masa performance is insane. It's even to the point where Dogman pops off on camera, Defran's popping off, the crowd's going wild. It's a beautiful moment.
Yeah, this is nuts. You have to watch this map. I think every Volskaya game we watched went to 4, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to see multiple rounds. Yeah, it was insane because we did get to see Dogman pop off a lot. All you see is his name in the kill feed on a lot of those point 2 attacks where we see Atlanta pushing in. Dude, he is just popping off. And just, again, unconventional grabs from Defran really do open up the point. This is another time where he grabs super early in a fight, grabs somebody really early, and I think it was Neptuno who was pushed up a little bit close. He just solo grabs him, gets the kill, they push on a point, and gets another grab, and that really did take point 2, gives him a little bit of time as well.
Yeah, this is a great one. Definitely watch it. So yeah, we're up 2-1. It's exciting stuff, and this is the second watch party we're having, and everybody's going crazy. And then we go to Dorado, and this is like a Twilight Zone episode. All right, and you can tell me if you agree, because this game is just weird. So we sub Enelair back in, and it's one of those cases where he hasn't been really I don't say playing poorly, but even on the times when he was on Widow and he got to play some Widow, when they went to his camera, he wasn't taking certain shots. He was kind of like fearful of like positioning. There were a lot of times where he burned a hook and had to take the long way around and kind of stretched out the time frame. He didn't look comfortable, and I think he's still trying to get into it.
Sure.
And that being said, Enelier is also known as being more of his skill set is based in his intuition. He's an intuitive player. He feels the game versus the natural game sense or trying to think about things. He just does. And that could play into kind of how he's feeling right now. Probably nervous. I don't know. We don't know that yet. I'm sure there'll be plenty of discussions where we'll find out what happened in this match or towards the end of this competition. But yeah, they sub him back in, and the second part that makes it a Twilight Zone episode is it's just for Brig duty. So it's like, why'd you take out Erster if you're just going to have him play Brig and we don't get to see any Widow? It's very confusing. What did you think about that?
The only thing I could think, real super early in the stage, get all the guys out there, get them used to it. Because if you're ever going to get this guy back in, you want to have a little bit of stage time. I mean, because you go out and play Widow, you don't want to go out there cold, unknowing of the stage. I mean, it's real nerve-wracking. I mean, we have no idea, but just give them a little bit of time. You know what I mean? Early in the stage, Atlanta looks really good. I don't think they should be worried about any performance this early on. They just want to get comfortable out there.
That makes sense. I didn't really think about it from that angle. Outside of the game, there's probably more to it where they're trying to just test the waters, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, another issue here, or another thing that concerned me was Dogman has been playing very aggressive. So, not dying like he sometimes gets into the mode of doing, but he's not resetting very well. So he is feeding a lot of ult on a lot of these plays. And then he's being very forward as far as being in front of the Brogan and everything like that. And it's kind of concerning for the situation we're in since we're trying to close this out. And the combination of that and Lair, it's just one of those things where it causes a problem here, and this leads to, on attack, ATL gets kind of close to point 2, but they're not able to get it. And reminiscent of King's Row, when Fusion is on attack, they just kind of cruise through. They win the fights they need to win, and they cap the short distance they need to get, and they end up tying it up 2-2 and pushing us to this 5th map.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just came down to the fact that Sato got to play Winston this entire map, except for on attack. They did go with the Rhine, and he just abuses the backline the entire time because you're forcing Pokpo to almost turn around, because Sato just puts himself in these positions where he is able to do a lot of damage and get out, and it just pressures the backline so much, especially on point 2 where you're looking down at the team. Winston is so good on Dorado, just looking down at the team, get in, get out, and you're just this Reinhardt. Essentially, you're a shield, but you're not blocking much because everything's coming from above. And if you're not landing big shatters against the Winston team, what are you doing there? You know what I mean? That's just how I saw it. I don't know.
No, you hit the nail on the head, because I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I figured, you being my better half would see that piece, and it definitely stood out. Sato he's playing very well, and it brings up a discussion that I kind of want to talk about towards the end when we get to our closing comments. I kind of want to think or see what you think, but we moved to Ilios, and so map of the match 2, maps of the match.
This is insane, dude.
Oh my god! So we start off on runes here. I always want to say ruins. Runes here, and Fusion does start strong. They get about 40% before Atlanta takes it over. And then we show this aggressive defense again that feels like we were just in control from the start. And this defense setup, so we're playing aggressively. We're playing on top of the pavilion. So if anybody's played Ruins, when you start, that little thing you run through before you get back up the stairs, that's a little pavilion type style thing. And we're holding up there, like we're standing up there. And then when Fusion tries to re-engage, we jump down on them. So they have to run under us in order to do anything. And then Defran his Zarya is at peak condition right here.
Absolutely.
And this leads to us taking it. They can't get to point to even try to contest it.
Yeah. And I'll talk about this. I don't want to give anything away going to the next one.
All right, so I'll
go ahead and hit us with
hit you with the next one. So we moved to Lighthouse. Okay. So Clay and I have always had this theory. We've done a lot of episodes, right? We've covered a lot of Fusion. And one thing we always talk about is with McCree, if a team ever forces you to pick McCree, if you're not planning on playing him from the get-go, so if you go out and scout and then you have to go swap to him, usually it results in a poor performance on them for that McCree player, right?
Absolutely.
That's not the case here because Carpe is a dangerous man. So Carpe's McCree comes out and he's popping off. So they see that we have a Pharah and Carpe swaps to McCree, and then he just pops off and is killing everyone to the point that it forces us to swap our game plan immediately, and we're immediately outside of the alt economy and we're not coming back against Fusion playing like this. And Carpe switches again, and it's one of those cases where like even to the final fight, and this final fight I need to talk about because Fusion, this shows you kind of this shows you a team that has been playing together for a while, right? Like a whole year. They're well-oiled machine. Like we said, they have all the same players essentially. And there's this point where they're contesting on the point. It's about like 99 and Atlanta's kind of ticking up there. And they have every door controlled on Lighthouse. They have every door controlled on the point, and they're stepping in. Like Ikea will step in and he'll use his stuff. Then he'll step back out, and Poco will step in and use his stuff. And then somebody else is like they're kind of playing this musical chair situation, and it's so rhythmic. It's ridiculous. Like go back and watch this piece because it leads to them keeping that thing contested, and then they end up taking it after they pick somebody off.
Yeah, because that's what you want Overwatch to look like. You want it to look like it is rhythmic, and everybody is on the same. You won't see it on ladder, obviously, so don't try to look for it there. Yeah,
let's not
it will
be
never
ridiculous.
Look like that. That's why you need to watch these games because this is the beauty of Overwatch. This is what it's supposed to look like when a team is well synergized. Yeah, absolutely.
And then this takes us into Wells. So the final map, the furthest you can push it, and we get to see DeFran on Torb again. I will say, during King's Row, and I wonder what you think about this. We're going to deviate a little bit. During King's Row, I thought that when we were struggling on streets and on defense, that it might have been fine for him to go to Torb there. What do you think about that?
Possibly. Yeah, just running against the Ghost. Mm-hmm. I don't hate it. I just don't know the fact that if he ever gets jumped on King's, it's just so hard to say because you want to set it up behind the Orisa shield. I'd like Ilios, especially on Well, because you can toss the turret up on these weird high grounds. Like you'll see him initially, he'll just throw it up there and it almost goes uncontested for the entire map. During Florida, you're like, they're not even looking at it. He's putting out so much damage. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see, that's for sure.
So back to our regular schedule programming. So back on Wells, we start off very well here. I mean, they're more prepared for Torb because they naturally saw Torb when we played it against Mayhem. So people were like, okay, we need to make sure we keep that in our back pocket just in case. But still, we do well. We control the point for most of this match. And then something unbelievable happens. And I'm going to just say it now, disclaimer. I'm not going to blame anybody. I don't know what happened. But this is probably going to be talked about for the upcoming weeks. Because I need to know what happened. Essentially, we're in a situation where we're at 99%. We have two ultimates. We have DeFran with Tracer ultimate. And we have Erster with another... What's it called? The Dragon. Another Dragon.
Yeah, the Dragon.
And, you know, they've been getting their ults very quickly, even though DeFran missed the bomb earlier, but he got another one already. That's just, he's good, right? So then there's a call at some point, because at this point, Fusion's about 61%, so we're not in a rush. There's some call where they switch to GOATs, and they dump both those ultimates, and we're at 99%. Now.
Yeah, it's strange.
I want to say it's nerves. I'm going to leave it to nerves. And just a poor call that happened. Don't know who did it. It was to nerves. But I don't care what comp they're playing. I don't care if they completely counter you. If you have those two ultimates, there is something you can coordinate to do. Because you have two fights. You essentially have two fights. So you have one quick fight. If it doesn't work, die and come back. You're at 99%. They're at 61. It was... We should have won this match.
Yeah, this one was a tight one. Like we mentioned, you got to go back and watch this one, and especially odd because we don't get a change off the Orisa as well because we just stuck to the guns with the Orisa and we switched everything else, and it's so hard to push back up on the point of Orisa. It's so easy to focus. We were getting a lot of bongos; they were dying really quickly as well, and it's one of those stats. If you land bongos, you almost win the fight, but Philly does an insane job with the Lucio, just coming around, making sure they get onto the bongos really quickly because it is such an impactful
is
ultimate.
On point here. Like he's been crushing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, some of the Dragons were good, but they weren't great. They did split some teams, but they looked like they were thrown out there either too early or too late. So they just weren't real high impact. Hanzo was really good. He was doing a lot of damage. That's why he was getting his ultimate so quickly. I don't know.
It's weird. And that's one thing, if we have to criticize the Fran, you're pulling our leg. As his bubble coordination is kind of off, and you can tell that he doesn't get the most optimal bubbles. He kind of has a trigger finger with him, but he charges so quickly based off of just damage. It kind of counterbalances. So if he gets a little bit better at his bubble management, he'll be unstoppable.
Yeah, because his tracking is insane. He does stay high charge, but you got to use it for a little bit of defensive as well. What I was going to say earlier is it's almost like map 1 and 2 of Ilios were a wash. Like, why not just play this third one? Because it was insane. Yeah. Just a best of one, because you're like, okay, Atlanta destroyed Philly on map 1. Philly did really well against Atlanta on map 2, and then it's like this, battle at the very end. It was awesome to watch.
And that being said, all that kind of ranting aside for myself, I am extremely happy for what we did here. The whole test was you're playing the second place team from last year, who could have easily been the champions if things worked out a little bit differently. And you came out as an expansion team with a roster of players that weren't in the league. They weren't in the league last year. This is not a team assembled from other pieces. And you come out here and you give this kind of performance and give them a run for their money, and they're going to remember this. And other teams are going to see this, and everybody's going to talk about this, and they're going to be like, you know what? They passed the test. The test wasn't technically to win. The test was to show that you belong as a OWL expansion team.
Yeah. To me, it looked like, when in like a boxing movie, when they scratch the guy that's like undefeated, like he, cut him or whatever, you're like, oh, he does bleed. This is what it is for me. Obviously, Atlanta, insane team, but Philly going into this, everybody's like, oh, this team is really good, especially with the performance we saw against London Spitfire on Thursday. You're like, oh, this team is insane. Yeah. And for Atlanta to come, to bring it to 5 games and, the third map, obviously, to 3 maps, dude, it was insane.
This has been a very pleasant week. Just overall, it's been.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where it goes from here, for sure.
Yeah, it's been silly. So, closing comments. Watch parties. Come out to the watch parties. Clay will be there at some point. We promise.
Absolutely.
But it's a case where Atlanta Rain was happy. Cox Communication was happy. We were happy. We're gonna keep this train rolling. We're gonna make them as best as we can for you guys. Get you, like, everybody in that place had a custom scarf. It was great. Clay, you'll be getting a bunch of stuff in the mail soon. And it's like it's bigger than we could have imagined. And we did our anniversary. We did a whole year of this stuff. And to be at this point where it's like, okay, we're on our second year, and now we have a team. It's only gonna be better.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to see this in person, man, because I didn't get to watch any of these in person last year, obviously, because of location, but just the fact that it's so close, get to actually watch these games with people that are also fans, it's going to be fun.
It's going to be nutty. Be a lot of fun. So, as always, you guys can reach us at Gmail, at thebirdwatcherspodcast@gmail.com. On Twitter, we're at thebirdwatcher, and watcher is spelled WATCH3R. On Facebook and YouTube, we're The Bird Watchers. On Reddit and Instagram, we're The Bird Watchers Podcast. Follow, like, please review. We've loved the reviews we've gotten in person and on iTunes, wherever. Tell your friends. A lot of people don't know about us still, even though it's been a year. And it's great to hear new people say, "Oh yeah, I gave it to my friend," and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know this was around." There are people who are going back and listening to our old episodes that sound terrible. I wouldn't advise that unless you just want to get a recap of the season. But it was a long journey. So. All that being said, thanks again for all the people that came up to me at the watch parties and said their piece. We appreciate it. We'll keep doing this. And thanks for listening as always. And we'll be back with another episode soon.
Absolutely. See you guys.
I have destroyed more of your kind than I can count.
about to get us killed out there?
I heard there's a nice reward for bringing you fellas in.
Maybe we could work something out, mate?